This is the real heritage, old buildings, the original cellars of Tomato, built back in around about 1870.
Okay.
Originally the stables for obviously the horses for farming the tomato station as it was back in those days, sheep and cattle, and they became the cellars. So the first wine picked from 1892 vineyard was made in 1896 in these cellars.
Wow.
And we have converted it to this lovely barrel hall. As I say, it's a heritage room where there's not much we can do, but it's just got a lot of history and personality. Yeah.
And a beautiful light coming into
that was actually
window
introduced in the 70s by the current owners, and it's a nice touch. In here we've got different batches potentially for Elston Chardonnay 25.
Okay.
And what doesn't make the grade at assemblage tasting will go into the estate Chardonnay 25.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You want to try a little bit?
Yeah, that sounds great. Perfect.
Yeah. So this is actually because it's the first in the line, it's the first pick of Chardonnay for Tomato this year. So it's from the 1892, there's a small bit of Chardonnay there in the Havelock appellation sub-region, and it's on those clay soils that we just visited, yeah.
So how old would those Chardonnay vines be?
These are not that old. These are probably about 15 years old, and because we replanted some of it into 548, which is what it is.
Okay.
It's gone through, obviously, its primary, and it's just finishing its secondary, the Malo now.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's just going through indigenously, yeah. We went into the full Burgundian model, what we thought it was, whole bunch press, go to barrel, full barrel ferment, primary and French oak, 100% French oak, and then follow that with malolactic. Nowadays, we're seeing, we want to have more tension and energy to Elston, so we don't necessarily put it through a full Malo. And again, that will be just year dependent, depending on how much acidity we've got. So acidity is one of the primary key ingredients that we're picking on.
And that acidity is giving me quite a bit of that salinity that you were talking about earlier, but the way the lees come through in this, that richness is the oyster shell.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And it's got that length and drive, hasn't it? You start to salivate a little bit.
The malic acidity doesn't seem intrusive at all. It's sort of only really on the finish where you can kind of see, oh yeah, that's malic. Otherwise on the palate, it doesn't read. No, it's not green and sharp and tart.
No, it's not. And you could imagine, if in some components, what we do at about a month ago, so we've got all the components out and put them in the lab blind. We'd already done an analysis on the pH, TA and amount of malic. We put that aside. We then just taste them and we go through each component and go, okay, out of those, say 15 components, if there's 3 or 4 where we go, geez, that acid it's just feeling ripe, that's driving the length on the palate. We go to ourselves, well, why would we let that go through Malo when holistically it might add to the blend, give that tightness and feeling of energy and tension. So what we'll do is we'll then sulfur those components up, because otherwise if we don't, they'll just go through Malo indigenously, so they'll just do it. So we get in and sulfur them up to prevent them going through Malo. The other components will just then let go through, and that's what's happening now.
So these would have been in barrel for just under a month?
Yeah, that probably went in February this year. That was an early pick. That's what we started with this pick in February, around about the 24th, I think.
Okay.
And so they'll come out just before harvest 26.
This sort of really subtle reductive sort of flintiness.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Is that something that is from that particular vineyard, or is it a ferment thing that's happening?
I think it's probably from this ferment, but we do often see a little level like that sort of flicker burn match or something like that. Yeah. Generally, we don't want too much of that. We really want at the moment Elston to display the fruit and where it came from, the vineyard, the variety itself, and then of course any benefits of lees and barrel and that flintiness is just going to add that sort of seasoning or sort of subtle complexity. But it's really about showcasing the work in the soil, the mesoclimate, the topography, and the work that the guys do in the vineyard. Yeah. Basically, we don't want it to go through Malo now as well, and we delay that until the following summer. Hay Crest, which is that, for us, I call it that alternative style of Sauvignon Blanc. I guess there's similar styles like Pessac Léognan, Smith Olivier, etc. This is our tomato version of it. It's Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon Sauvignon Gris, fully barrel ferment, and then that'll settle in tank for a few days, and then we'll measure the turbidity, get the right turbidity right, and put it to barrel for barrel ferment. Okay. Again, like Elston, it'll be a blend, an assemblage of Sauvignon Blanc from the different sub-regions, but also we've got different clones of Sauvignon Blanc in the ground. We've got the 2413, we've got 316, 317 and 905, those last three being Bordeaux clones.
Okay.
So we quite like them and the blend from the different sub-regions, the different mesoclimates and soils and that.
Okay.
And again, it's 100% barrel ferment, of which around about 30% on average is new oak.
Okay.
Again, we're very wary about the oak sitting in the background, so it's a different oak program for Cape Crest than it is for Elston. We do measure turbidity that will go into all the wines, but the new barrels we actually raise the turbidity, do a bit more fining effect in them, and we just found through trial work we were really liking it. So, and that's just hand select lees. So when the tank of juice is settling, we see the cleared brighter juice up the top, and as you go down to the bottom, the turbidity and the colour of the leaves and the texture looks like it changes. It looks like the very bit as you get down where it sort of starts to really transition is like a big white fluffy cloud, and as you get down, it's more like a thunderous dark cloud. It's the dirty sort of stuff. We don't want to really take that to barrel, but we like that sort of more fluffy light leaves, and so we'll introduce those at an extra level into the new barrels. Traditionally we would barrel ferment them as separate varieties, as separate pick. This year we didn't have a lot of it, so I was confident that the Gris looked really good, and so did the Semillon. But let's just look out of the fruit out of a second use barrel, then I'll show you what a new barrel does, and then you can sort of see, wow, maybe that's how it's going to work holistically.
Yeah, I mean, you have a very complex barrel program, using a lot of different coopers and a lot of different...
Yeah, it's become a little bit more simple because, we're using now, we're a bit more confident as, okay, these barrels are in the Cape Crest program, those ones for Elston, those ones for Syrah, those ones for Pinot, etc., etc.
Okay.
We've done work with indigenous ferments for Cape Crest, for the Sauvignon Blanc, but we tend to inoculate, and rather than just sort of add one yeast, we will co-inoculate with a whole lot of different yeast at the same time, and that's why we think we get a little bit more complexity. Here we go, Sauvignon Blanc. This is from out at Bridge Parr.
Is there a name for that vineyard? You just call it the Bridge Parr?
It's actually the Bullnose Vineyard.
Oh, it's the Bullnose Vineyard.
So obviously Bullnose is known, for the Syrah, and I think a lot of people had the perception, oh, it's just Syrah, that's the Bullnose Vineyard. Well, it was. That's where we did the original 1990 planting of Syrah. Quite different fruit profile too, eh? And I think it has to be to work with barrel ferment. We do treat the canopy differently, and of course we do. We only 2 cane it normally, and I guess that keeps the crop level down. I think with the crop level down, we get a little bit more of that fatness. There's a bit of creaminess there. So this is probably went in I don't know, early March. So what are we, March, April? Just under 2 months.
Okay.
Time for the integration. So yeah, but with that extra leaves, it will help that integration. So yeah, this is what the new oak, how it contributes.
And sorry, did you mention earlier, how you're making the decision about which barrels will or will not see Malo?
I know that Malo now, with the different strains and the indigenous yeast, that it might not take away from the fruit flavour, but I feel like we can get texture elsewhere rather than doing Malo, and I think by not doing Malo, which does contribute some flavours, doesn't it, in our aromas, that we really want to focus that purity on the Sauvignon Blanc Semillon. So this is now Pinot here. We bring it in, we handpick it, D-stem only, no crush, and then this is a red where we do add a little bit of sulphur because we're doing the aqueous cold soak.
Do you mind talking a little bit more about your choice to fully destem instead of using equal bunches?
Yeah, we do with Pinot. We destem. When some we're doing more trial work on whole bunch.
Okay.
I quite like the idea of delayed Malo in barrel. We keep the pH low, so there's a thing about colour stability by keeping the pH low. Those anthocyanins being more stable long term. Quite like the idea of leaving the gross lees. Okay, we had a bit of sulphur initially, but basically, there's no free sulphur in here at the moment. I like that idea of sitting on those lees unsulphured at the moment, so degrade the sort of solids in the yeast cell and just to give more of that textural quality, that savouriness to the wine. I think for me, it's something I like doing. Sometimes you might see just before, because we hold this cold, so pretty much about a week before Christmas, we'll turn it off, and the room will warm up, you know, sort of from 8-10 degrees to sort of, it'll get up to maybe 14, 15, and as soon as it gets around that sort of even 13 and above, they'll start going Malo. So within 3 or 4 weeks, they're just about done Malo, and then soon after that, we'll then make sure they're topped. They actually freshen up, because sometimes just before that Malo, you will see a little bit of that aldehyde oxidative character. And if it got really bad, that may be bound in the wine, but generally sulfur will take care of that later on. We just let it naturally warm up, because there's some of this, you know, by the time we turn this off.
With all the malic acid in it at the moment, and where the tannins are, it's very crunchy.
A really ripe raspberry syrup to me, black cherry.
But there's a floral layer to it.
Yeah, there's a prettiness to it, eh? That's 777.
Right, so you actually ferment each clone separately as well?
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot to play with.
So this is some old vine Abel. Yeah.
Cool. So when you say old vine, when did these go into?
These went in 99.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yep, that's earlier than I thought.
Yeah. We only had 2 small plantings here, just to look at,
Well, what happened to all the Pinot fruit across the early 2000s?
In 99, we actually did make a tomato Pinot. And I think we released it because we don't generally take fruit in the first few years. Of course, that was when it was planted. And then we did make one, it must have been, in 04 and 05, in small quantities, because we didn't have much. From memory, we released it just overseas.
I see.
Yeah, it was only had about 2 pallets.
Okay.
And then the idea was, well, let's put that aside. We'll obviously, we can sell that fruit to other people and farm it differently on a more of an economic scale. And then meantime, we wanted to get some vine age.
The aromatic complexity is astoundingly different. Like it's not in the fruit zone. There's something a lot sort of earthier, spicier.
Spicy, I'm getting that. Yeah, definitely. My first overseas vintage was actually in Burgundy for a company called Domaine Cellar. So they had a winery in Mercury, and of course Cellar. They owned Clos de Lombray. So I worked beside Thierry Bois for a little bit there, and
awesome.
Clos de Lombray, but also in Mercury. I love Pinot for a lot of its subtleties and prettiness, which is a good thing. And I think it gives you respect for those nuances as well, which is really important.
That is
Thank you. And we got our first crop last year.
Okay.
And not often does this ever happen, but it was tiny. We got about. So it went into Elma 24, which isn't released yet. Okay. Yeah. And this here is the second crop of MV6. But again, so different. I mean, there's a small amount of reduction there, but that'll blow off.
Yeah. That's what blowing the glass is for.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has that sort of small red fruit character.
Yeah.
I think, but a lot more skins as well at the same time. Like there's a freshness. Not that you can smell acidity, but there's a.
That's what I'm.
Tartar,
Yeah. And that's what cranberry to me is, that acid tartness.
Yeah, gotcha.
And there's a little bit of underlying, I don't know where it's coming from, but perhaps a bit of aniseedy sort of stuff.
It's almost sumac, dried red dates. That it has a tighter expression.
Yeah. You like?
I do.
Yeah.
But it's entirely different.
Yeah. I know. So we've got Syrah in Bridge Par. In Giblet and in Dartmoor. And of course, different age of vines, different plantings, different mesoclimates. We've covered all that. So they're all going to be different, which is neat. So there's one called Hotspur, which is this one, HS. Again, it's pretty simple. And AN for ancestral, we named them when we took them over to personalise them. And then, of course, we've invested in them quite a bit since. We bought them in anticipation for offering something different in the Bullnose blend, but also in our estate blend as well. It's traditionally quite an old block, and it just came up for sale back in end of 18. We took some in 18, but we took full ownership for the 19 vintage, so that's when we started investing. Yeah, they're both Hotspurs 100% Syrah, and this is predominantly Syrah. This wine here just has been pressed off, but I don't think from memory, there's so many tanks here, we've gone through Malo. So it's come away from its skins and seeds. Texturally and structurally, we thought it was pretty good. Where this will end up, we haven't judged it yet, but yeah.
It's holding on to quite a lot of sort of ferment aromas for now.
Yes, yeah.
But the palate is, purple,
Yeah,
violet, and actually quite high toned.
yeah, yeah.
It's not that pruny,
No,
kind of very ripe style of Syrah.
no,
It's actually
no. It's a little subtle spice and it's sort of very purpley. And my feeling is it probably hasn't fully gone through Malo. There's just a little bit of freshness on the finish.
In the back.
Yeah.
It peaks up a little bit.
Yeah, it does, and makes it pinch a little bit at the moment. You know, a lot of the very top stuff's gone to barrel, but I've got a feeling that will probably tend towards a state grade for me.
Okay.
Yep, because we'll have to make the call probably next week. Yep. And if I'm unsure, I'll go against something that I am sure against.
Sure.
So, for example, this one here, this is in the Bridge Bar Triangle.
Thank you.
It's not on the Bullnose Vineyard, it's in the Isosceles Vineyard.
Yep.
Very, very similar, but again, it is different.
Like even on the nose.
Yeah, it is.
You know, it's deeper pitched. It's
Yeah,
broader.
yeah.
The sort of classic pepperiness and stuff.
Yeah,
is
and
coming
it's a
out.
feeling of maybe that broadness is, to me is a sense of richness maybe too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It smells bigger.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, and that's what I would say too. It's good we can understand each other. Yeah, it is, and then you'll see in the palate too. I mean, of course, there's a slight more reduction too, but hey, these wines will be just destemmed, no crush. They'll go into tank. Again, we don't add sulphur, none at all. It'll get its sulphur hit when it goes to barrel.
And the tannins are really very fine in this. Like almost chalky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a feeling of creaminess and sweetness. You can actually, when we pick, you know, we look at all of the numbers, the Brix, the pH, the TAs, the Malix are a big thing. And we look at the vine condition, we look at the canes, we look at the fruit. I want really fruit in that good condition, that waxical bloom. And then we look at the peduncle, the pedicle, and the brush. So when we take the berry off the brush, how easy does that berry pull off the rack-eye?
Okay.
If it's hard to pull off, it's pretty much saying to me, as a personal thing, I'm not ready.
Sure.
But if it pulls off too easy, well, maybe there's something wrong. But if it just pops off like that, it's saying, well, I'm ready. But we look at the brush, we look at the pulp, and we look at the skin and the seed.
Okay.
Because the seed is very important because we want seed tannin. So we need to have ripe seeds. We need to have that sort of that tan seed on both sides. Yeah.